Welcome back. You're still watching NTV Weekend Edition. Well, welcome to Talk of the Nation, where we dive into some of the issues that have been making headlines. Now, to take you back on Independence Day, President Museveni revealed that the government is committed to contribute to building several roads in the DRC, following an argument with the Kinshasa government. He explains that Uganda would contribute 20% of the cost of the building of roads in DRC as a move intended to boost regional trade between the two countries. Now, however, there have been concerns as to what this really means. Some of us or some of you have been clearly saying, does it make any financial sense? And tonight we speak to SAM MUTABAZI, a member of the multi-sectoral group of Coast Uganda, to give us an insight into what this really means for the country. Welcome to Talk of the Nation tonight.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be on NTV again.
Well, I'm sure you listened to the president on Independence Day,
yes,
and you noted all the different issues that he pointed out.
Yes.
We know that this particular issue he's talked about of Uganda contributing to this project of building roads in the DRC has made rounds on social media. But we also know it's not a new phenomenon. We've seen countries contribute, you know, to the building of roads, infrastructure in other countries. Case in point is China. Yes. Why does this feel new in the case of Uganda and DRC?
Yes, it's new. Thank you once again, and thank you, viewers. It's new because it's like a poor person choosing to give even more than what possibly they can afford. Poor people, in this case Uganda is a poor economy. Actually, it has made headlines all over the world, including the Washington Post, including BBC, and all the international media are wondering how can a small country like Uganda, with a GDP of far much less money, grappling with its own challenges of road transport, how can it be able to provide funding for upgrading roads within the DRC? And I think the issue fundamentally is not so wrong. If we are to look at the issue from the Ugandan lens economically, it makes sense, because most of these countries, if we expand, Europe developed because it plundered Africa, because it had access to markets in Africa. If you use the same concept, Uganda would want to access the markets in Congo. So how do we do it? The best and basic way is to use the road transport, fundamentally. Now, what we are not comfortable with is whether we are actually targeting those markets by the roads we are going to build. Because the roads we are going to build will be too short and they will end in undeveloped network. As we know, Eastern Congo is the whole of Eastern Congo, which is on the western part of Uganda, there is almost no road network. Now, what we are talking about is Uganda trying to construct about 50 kilometers to the next small town, and 80 kilometers to the next small town, and another 50 kilometers, which is one, it doesn't lead to the markets we are talking about. It leads to smaller markets of about a town possibly in Bukavu and Beni. Beni has a population of not less than 30,000 people. Now, is that a market that Uganda is looking for? If you are going to invest 220 billion, when will you recover that money? My position, or what we would think, would be to target the larger market of Kinshasa. It's a long distance, but possibly that's where the government needs to put a lot of emphasis by coming together from Kenya, Tanzania, and all these countries to link to that market, because it is much bigger.
But maybe to cut you short on that, Mr. SAM MUTABAZI, the justification of the president is that the profit that we make every year from the trade between the two countries is about $500 million US. And ideally, this will boost that. And we are, by the way, for those watching us tonight, we are looking at over 200 kilometers of the project. But do you think as a country, do you already tackled it as a country that already has its own issues? Considering now we're having a pandemic, it's a good time for us to be investing in another country.
Yeah, because we all, I studied economics. if you all know that we don't use our own monies, or we don't wait for us to be rich for us to give, or to invest for that matter. Countries invest not because they have a lot of money, they invest for strategic purposes.
Okay.
Right now, America and China are heavily indebted, but they continue to heavily invest in Africa. China is investing billions in infrastructure in Africa, not because it loves Africa much, but because it is looking at the future. And that's the same exact scenario Uganda would be using. Why would we strategically invest in roads in DRC? Is to make sure that in future, our trade, our goods travel safely and faster, or our imports from all that vast area, from Congo, from DR Congo and Congo Brazzaville and others, if we reach Kinshasa, or if we connect these roads, my biggest issue is that we need the roads to connect to the tarmacked roads.
Okay, so I actually get your point. What you're trying to say is that you agree with the president or with the government of Uganda saying we should invest in infrastructure in the DRC. Strategically, it is good for our economy, but where are we stopping when we invest in the roads? We know that DRC is going to contribute 80% and we contribute 20%.
Yes.
So that is where we're having an issue of where do we stop and where does Kinshasa come in?
I have two issues which I think government needs to come clean. That's one of them. But the second one is, can we make sure that we get the nitty-gritty of this project?
Okay.
As the public, but also as a country, so that everybody moves at the same time. And this has been one of the biggest problems facing infrastructure development in our country. The moment you botch up, you hide some information, and you want to come, however good the project is, it ends up becoming bad. So this project, I'm aware that there has been some hushed discussions within cabinet, within parliament, and within the policy framework of government, but not adequate. Mm-hmm. We do not know exactly what informs this project. So this project needs to be based on research. For instance, why the 50 kilometers? Why stop at Beni? What would 50 kilometers really do, apart from benefiting Kinshasa? Because the entire stretch, you know, Congo is so huge. It actually, Uganda is a small part of the eastern part of Congo. So can we choose? My problem would be to make sure that we connect Uganda, any of the border points, to the next tarmacked road. That would make a lot of sense. But secondly, can we know how much money we are going to invest in? Who is going to be the contractor? How much are they going to take? And when can we do this project? So that we know, out of this project, if we are going to invest maybe 223 billion, it will require us the next 20 years to recoup this money, or maybe 10, or maybe 5. All that information is completely non-existent. So we are talking about two fronts. One, does it make sense to invest 220 billion, which is very little money in terms of road construction, but a huge amount considering Uganda's budget? Can we make sure that the money would rather combine it to make a stretch that cuts across from all this eastern Congo that is completely impassable, and connect it to a road that is better, that links to Kinshasa, not making a small 50 kilometers here that leads to an impassable road, another 50 here on the border, you know, Bunagana, you make 50 kilometers, Mpondwe to inside 50 kilometers, and then Vura Arua 50 kilometers. It doesn't make sense. It's like you making one of your houses with the paver, what are they called? Tiles, and the other you leave it with earth.
Interesting.
Do you access the market you are trying to access by making 50 kilometers? That's the question. So the other question is, are you open about what exactly entails this project? If all else, if that information would be shared by the public, and we know exactly why we are investing in the roads, in Congo, it would be a good idea, because at the end of the day, we are looking at how much will we get from this project, not why are we investing. Because Uganda has impassable roads. That's another problem.
In fact, some people have been asking, why are we investing in another country's infrastructure when we still have our own that still need to be attended to, and they've not been attended to for years. So it's also another question.
The rate of return for constructing the road must be very clear, and not only clear to the policymakers, but to the public. Because we have roads here that could actually make us more money. And this is where I want to call on the public. You have Wakiso district.
Yes.
Very important area that circles Kampala. If we got like 220 billion, actually, that money would be well invested. If we invest that money into the roads in Wakiso, that would make a lot of sense. Because with time, those roads would help boost business within the larger Kampala metropolitan area than just squandering it and you put 50 kilometers within Bunia, Congo, and Vura. It has to make sense for us to invest in those roads.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Sam MUTABAZI. Clearly, he does accept that the idea is good, but there are some nitty-gritties that need to be addressed, both to the policymakers and also to Ugandans. And we all know that infrastructure is very key in facilitating trade between one area, one region to another. So we hope that the government and the leaders watching us tonight can put all these different questions that the public needs to know, need answers to forward. We need those answers as fast as possible before we start this very huge project. Well, thank you all for joining us on Talk of the Nation. We'll be back with NTV Weekend Edition.